Hello, everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Look, if you've spent any time at all working in the soil, you know that growing garlic can be an incredibly rewarding experience. But let's be honest, it can also be a little mystifying. So today, we're setting out with one very clear goal: uncovering the agricultural secrets to growing massive, robust, and flavorful garlic bulbs, and finally understanding exactly why so many crops just completely fail to size up.
Have you ever wondered why some garlic bulbs just never reach their full potential? We've literally all been there. You spend months carefully tending to your garden or your farm, anticipating a beautiful, heavy harvest. But when you finally pull those stalks from the earth, you're met with frustratingly undersized, tiny heads. Cultivating larger bulbs isn't just about bragging rights, right? It's about maximizing your yield, significantly improving the flavor profile, and making all your hard work actually pay off. So, in this explainer, we're going to unravel the mysteries behind stunted garlic and arm you with the precise, science-backed secrets you need to cultivate robust, large bulbs.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To solve the problem of stunted garlic growth, we're going to follow a 6-pillar blueprint: biological factors, environmental conditions, planting techniques, nutrient management, pest control, and finally, harvesting.
Let's kick things off with Pillar 1. Biological factors, genetics, and growth patterns.
The absolute foundation of your garlic's potential size is coded right into its genetics. And honestly, if you don't get this part right, no amount of water or fertilizer is going to save your harvest. We basically have two main categories to think about: winter garlic and summer garlic. Winter garlic, which is typically a hardneck variety, is incredibly cold resistant. Varieties like Nora produce vigorous growth with thick stems and large, evenly sized clothes, usually about 13 to 16 per head. On the flip side, summer garlic, often a soft neck type like Gorneriahovsky, has much smaller, uneven clothes, but it totally excels in long-term storage. A huge reason garlic fails to thrive is simply that growers mismatch the variety to the planting season. Think about it. If you mistakenly plant a cold-sensitive summer variety right before winter, the biological cycle is completely broken and your bulb size will suffer immensely.
Now, what's genuinely surprising here is the biological timeline of aerial bulbils. You know, those tiny little bulbs at the very top of a hardneck's flowering stalk. A massive mistake growers make is planting these and expecting a huge multi-clove head in just one season. But it's actually a 2-year cycle. In year 1, planting a bulbil is only going to yield a small, single-clove bulb known as a round. You have to save that round and then plant it again in year 2 to finally harvest a full multi-clove head. Expecting a massive bulb in year 1 is, well, biologically impossible. Moving right along to Pillar 2, environmental conditions, setting the stage.
Even the most superior genetics will completely fail in the wrong environment. Because garlic actually has a surprisingly shallow and weak root system, it is incredibly picky. The soil pH needs to be a very precise 6.2 to 6.28 so the roots can properly absorb crucial phosphorus and potassium. But the real make-or-break point? That's about temperature and moisture. Garlic needs cool temperatures, around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, to grow big, healthy leaves. Why does that matter? Because the size of the final bulb is directly proportional to the surface area of those green leaves. If you get a sudden heat wave combined with a drought early in the spring, the plant literally panics. It prematurely stops growing leaves and forces whatever energy it has left into forming a bulb, giving you tiny, stunted garlic. Let's look at Pillar 3, planting techniques, spacing, and timing.
Once you've got the right seed and soil, getting the garlic into the ground correctly is your next major hurdle. Here's the thing. Garlic absolutely hates competition, even from its own kind. For winter garlic, you need 20 to 25 centimeters between rows and 10 to 15 centimeters between plants. If you plant them too densely, they will literally starve each other of sunlight and nutrients, and the bulbs will be tiny. For summer garlic, it's 15 to 20 centimeters for rows and 10 to 12 centimeters for plants. Furthermore, the planting depth is critical. Winter garlic needs 4 to 6 centimeters, and summer needs 5 to 6. If you tiz your soil right before planting and it's too loose, the first rain will push the cloves way too deep into the ground. This delays their emergence, exhausts their energy reserves, and ultimately leads to, you guessed it, undersized garlic.
I want you to burn this number into your memory: 6. This represents the exact number of weeks winter garlic needs in the ground before the first hard winter frost hits. Timing is literally everything. If you plant 6 weeks before the deep freeze, the clove has just enough time to establish a robust, powerful root system without actually sprouting green shoots above the ground. This hidden root system gives it a massive head start when spring finally arrives.
Up next is Pillar 4,
Nutrient management. Feeding for size.
Because garlic's roots are so shallow, they rely entirely on what you place right in front of them in that top layer of the soil. So, what's the golden rule? Never use fresh manure. It is a catastrophic mistake. Fresh manure releases intense ammonia that causes severe chemical burns to garlic's delicate, shallow roots. On top of that, it activates aggressive putrefactive processes, which basically means it invites rot. Applying fresh manure will severely deform your bulbs and likely destroy your entire crop. Always use well-composted, fully aged organics instead.
So instead of fresh manure, you should be following a targeted nutritional timeline. Before planting, enrich your beds with compost and wood ash, which provides the potassium that garlic absolutely loves. Then, as the green leaves begin their rapid expansion in the spring, that's exactly when you strike with nitrogen, about 10 to 15 kilograms per decaray of ammonium nitrate during the first hoeing. This fuels the leaf growth that will eventually swell the bulb. But crucially, you must cut off all nitrogen 2 to 3 weeks before harvest. If you don't, the plant will just keep trying to grow green leaves instead of finishing the bulb, and your garlic won't store properly.
On to Pillar 5, Pest Control, Protecting Your Crop.
You can do absolutely everything right with your soil and spacing, but hidden biological threats can bring growth to a grinding halt. The primary antagonist here is Ditylenchus dib-saxi. It's a microscopic stem and bulb nematode. Think of it like a microscopic vampire that feeds directly on the plant's sap, basically intercepting the water and vital nutrients that were meant to travel down and swell the growing garlic head. It is absolutely devastating. It's capable of destroying up to 75% of a crop, both out in the field and even later on during storage.
So how do you even know if you have them? The telltale symptoms are unexplained yellowing and drying of the leaves from the tips down, wildly deformed bulbs where the cloves separate unnaturally, and a distinctly unpleasant, rotten odor. Because they are microscopic, prevention is truly your best weapon. You must practice strict crop rotation. Never, ever plant garlic in the same spot year after year. You need to wait a minimum of 4 years before planting garlic or its relatives in that same soil just to break the nematode's life cycle.
And finally, Pillar 6, Harvesting, the final push. It's incredibly important to realize that improper late-stage care can literally undo months of hard work right at the finish line. Step 1. If you're growing a hardneck variety, you have to snap off the flowering stalk, or scape. If you leave it, the plant will pour all its sugars and energy into creating a flower, essentially starving the underground bulb. Snapping the scape redirects all that energy straight down into swelling the head. Step 2. Stop watering a full month before you plan to harvest. This forces the plant to concentrate its flavors and form those tight, papery, protective skins. And Step 3. Cure the harvested bulbs in a dry, ventilated, and shaded area. Consistently apply these 6 pillars, matching the genetics to the season, nailing the environmental pH and temp, spacing them properly, feeding them safely, rotating crops to avoid those nasty nematodes, and mastering the final harvest push. Here is why this matters. By understanding the science of how garlic actually grows, you take all the guesswork out of the equation. You can completely transform tiny, disappointing cloves into massive, professional-grade garlic heads. I would absolutely love to hear how these techniques work out for you. What does your gardening setup look like, and what variety are you going to plant next? Please share your growing experiences below in the comments. As always, this explainer provides general guidance and should not replace professional agricultural advice. Results may vary based on unique conditions and environments. Always consult local experts when in doubt. But it certainly leaves us wondering, doesn't it? If a microscopic nematode or just a slight shift in soil temperature can alter an entire harvest, what other invisible battles are happening right beneath our feet in the garden?